This Canadian Forces base where we are today, CFB Trenton, was established in a time of peace between the First and Second World Wars. It was farmland, became an airbase for the Royal Canadian Air Force. It opened nearly a century ago, and during the Second World War it became the largest training centre and unit of the British Commonwealth Air Training Plan. My grandfather, James Sinclair, would have come through Trenton when he was a member of the RCAF on his way to serve in North Africa during the Second World War. People came here from far and wide to train and fly, people who went off to war, people who fought to defend what Canada stands for: freedom, justice, fairness, and peace. A lot of people who didn't come home. They were a generation that made immense sacrifices so we, their children, grandchildren, and great-grandchildren could live in peace. Service to country and to Canadian values defines who we are. We've always known that we're the best country in the world, so we understand our obligation to do our part. It's what we did in World War I and World War II, where names like Vimy Ridge, Dieppe, and Juno Beach became part of Canadian lore. And it's what we did in the decades that followed. It's why Kapyong Hill in Korea, Camp Nathan Smith in Kandahar, and Camp Adatsi in Latvia are so meaningful. Canadians are connected to the world, and we've always punched above our weight. Today, we live in an increasingly complex and challenging time. So now, more than ever, the world needs more Canada, and the world needs more Canadians. And whereas in the entirety of the 20th century we sent our people out to the front lines across the world, we are now on the front lines of new and evolving threats. Technological advances and cyber attacks mean there are myriad ways for engagement that go beyond traditional borders. Rising and disruptive powers like China and Russia mean NATO's northern and western flank is the Canadian Arctic. And climate change is rapidly reshaping Canada and reshaping our north. The Northwest Passage could become the most efficient shipping route between Europe and Asia by 2050. That's just 26 years away. Canadians are, once again, called upon to meet the moment. Today, we are announcing our next commitment to our armed forces and to Canadians' security with the investments laid out in Our North, Strong and Free. It makes $73 billion worth of investments over the next 20 years. Our North, Strong and Free invests in new surveillance capabilities for land, sea and air in the north. It leverages Canada's world-class technology, including in AI and quantum, so we can stay ahead of the curve. It creates jobs, and importantly, it supports all those of you who serve. This is about protecting our values, our sovereignty, and our north. Indigenous peoples have long been integral to Canada's identity as a northern nation, but too often defence in the north has been entirely separate from the people who've lived there for millennia. This must never again be the case. Our investments in the north must serve both Canada's defence and the well-being and success of the Inuit, First Nations and Métis who've always been its stewards. This is something I've heard directly from Inuit leadership and a crucial piece of our work together to advance the Arctic and Northern Policy Framework. And we are supporting our friends in Ukraine as they push back against Putin. Russia's illegal and unjustifiable invasion is a direct attempt to fracture the foundations of democracy and our global rules-based order. It's an attempt to undermine the values and principles that previous generations fought for, subsequent generations benefited from, and that we must secure for this generation of Canadians and the next. This is why we are stepping up once again to preserve and defend the rules-based order that has allowed people around the world to prosper for the better part of the last century, to stand up for Canadian values like freedom, justice, fairness, and peace, to keep Canada and the world safer in a time of increasing difficulty. Now is the time to do even more, and our government is answering the call with this investment. Avant de terminer, j'aimerais m'adresser directement aux femmes et aux hommes des Forces armées canadiennes. Le monde change, mais nos valeurs en tant que Canadiens ne changent pas. Every day, you, as proud members of the Canadian Armed Forces, show us what service to country, service to the values, ideals, and people of this country means. We need you. The world needs you to continue to step up. And we will be there to give you the support and resources and tools you need to match your courage and your convictions.